It's called Panzer General, and this is a very good game. Basically, you're playing the Germans, World War II. It starts off with the invasion of Poland, and that's a pretty easy scenario to win because you've got a modern air force and they got like biplanes, and it's pretty easy to sweep those biplanes from the field very quickly, and once you swept them, you can just bring in your Stukas and hammer everything on the ground. Yeah, I've played you can switch and play the Allies if you want to, not in the campaign for it, but in the single battle. And whenever I played the Poles, I could never defeat the Germans because once they get control of the skies and bring their Stukas in, it's just a matter of time before they finish you off. Panzer General, you don't control the political aspects of this game, you just control the military aspects, but it's still a very fun game, and you can learn a lot from it. You've got infantry in this game, you got different forms of infantry. You have like pioneers, which are like engineers. You got like regular infantry, you got heavy infantry, and you've got bridge infantry, guys who can lay down bridges to cross rivers so you can move troops across them very quickly. And and you got paratroopers even, and also like rangers and commandos, and you got a wide variety of infantry you can choose from. Even amongst the paratroopers, you got lightly equipped paratroopers and heavy, well-equipped paratroopers. So there's a wide variety of that. You also have tanks in this game. You have armored personnel carriers. You have trucks. Trucks can move infantry and artillery around quickly, and armored personnel carriers can move them around much more quickly and in much more difficult terrain. But a lot of times, I'll just go with the trucks for the infantry or the artillery. But if I have occasionally, if I got the money, I'll get some armored personnel carriers to move my artillery and my infantry if I have the money for it. One of the things that you want to do in this game is you want to build up your air power. As the air war goes, so does the ground war go. You want to have enough fighters to take out their fighters, and then you can bring in your Stukas, your dive bombers, to hammer them from the air. And once you've got control of the sky, you can bring in your Stukas, it's pretty much all over for them. A lot of times I could take out entire infantry units and tank units with the Stukas without ever having to close with my own infantry and tanks with them. And that's the way you want to do it. One of the things you want to do is you want to first get control of the skies. It's good to spread out your troops. You want some tanks, you want some infantry, and you want some artillery. You want all three of those things. At the beginning of the game, it's not so important to buy the most expensive tanks. And one of the tricks you want with your troops is they develop battle honors. They develop experience over time. So you want to keep building up those battle honors on your troops, and particularly your infantry. And you want to keep your infantry, once they've built up their battle honors, back a little bit. You want to send your green troops first to let them build up their battle honors, and if they get in trouble, then bring in your veterans to help them out. But you don't want to bring in your veterans too early in the battle, at least you might lose them and lose all their battle honors. That's not good. For the invasion of France, the main key on that is make sure you have enough fighters and enough dive bombers. The tanks and the infantry, make sure you've got some trucks for them. You don't need armor. You don't need APCs for them. And for the artillery, some trucks. And I would just spend most of my money on the air power, and I'd buy like third-rate tanks, and not really because once you get the Stukas in, you're going to blow their tanks to hell before you have to close with them. So it doesn't really matter. You don't need the best tanks for that. Okay. And remember, keep upgrading your troops from time to time. You can buy better Stukas, you can buy better tanks, and the battle honors will carry over when you buy them. So once you get better tanks that come in after a couple battles, by the time you get to Russia, you want to start getting some better tanks by the time you get there. by the time you start invading them, and you also want to get more fighters in the air because you always want to control the skies in this game. If you don't control the skies, you're basically finished. You need air superiority. You don't need absolute air supremacy to completely wipe out the enemy air power, but you need to have the dominant hand in the battle. And also, when you're moving your Stukas, if you can have some fighter escort with them, just in case they get jumped by enemy fighters, have the fighters right next to them. That's a good idea. For the invasion of Moscow, if you make it all the way to Moscow, you want to remember to send forward some paratroopers and send in fighter escorts with them. Your first turn, land those paratroopers behind Moscow and start building up your forces in their rear. So by the time you get to Moscow, you'll be attacking them from the front and rear at the same time, and that's really where you want to be. One of the things you want to remember is in this game is you really want to get control of the sky first, and then start hammering the enemy with your Stukas, and then you want to bring forward your artillery behind your infantry and your tanks, because if you hit like a toughly defended city or something like that, you want to hammer them with that artillery a couple of turns before you move in your tanks and infantry to take out those areas. And so that's a good thing to do. When you're invading England, it's good to remember, if you actually get that far in the game, control the skies, use your paratroopers to take some targets in there, get your troops ashore, and you need good tanks in the invasion of England. You want to upgrade your tanks for that, and you also need artillery backing up your infantry and your armor. So you need plenty of infantry you need plenty of artillery with your infantry and tanks, and get your infantry up there, get your artillery behind it, hit them with the artillery, soften up the targets, and then take the hard targets with your infantry and tanks. That Operation Sea Lion, that is a tough one to do, but you can do it. I'd like to also talk. Okay. I'd like to talk to you also about a game I really like that's similar to that. It's called Allied General. That's where you get to play either the Russians, the Americans, or the British in that war. And that's a very fun game. It's interesting because when you're fighting in North Africa and you're playing the British, this is one time where it's good to have armored personnel carriers for your infantry and your artillery. And have a couple of them. For your best infantry and your best artillery, you definitely want to spend some money on some APCs, and you want to control the skies. You need enough fighters, and mosquitoes are very good to buy because you can use them as fighters and as tactical bombers. Yeah, so buy some of them, buy some Spitfires, and first get control of the skies and then take the ground. One of the things to remember in this game when you're fighting in North Africa, when you're playing the British, you can bypass a lot of their troops in the field with fast-moving APCs, infantry and artillery, and get to their rear, where after they've launched a major advance, they have almost no one there, and you can take out their supply lines in their rear and basically cut them off, And that's what you really want to do in this game. Let them commit to an attack, let them get their forces out of the rear, and then swing around south of them with some infantry troops and artillery and take them out, take out their rear supply lines. When you're playing the Americans, it's good to remember to buy the Mustang fighters and to also buy the Marauder tactical bombers, because that's like the Stukas. They can blow the hell out of stuff from the air. The American tanks aren't that good. You want to get some of the ones with the better armor, though. if a tank has extra armor on it, look at the armor rating and you want to buy those. But basically, if you can, you want to take out their tanks with your tactical bombers or your air power, and then just once they're weakened, send in your tanks to finish off what's left of them. When I'm playing this game, when I'm playing the Allies, one of the tactics I like to use is I like to buy a lot of artillery. And I might only move them with trucks initially, but I'll upgrade them later. But I might have one or two artillery units that is in the form of being moved by half tracks. But what I like to do is buy lots of artillery, set up a strong defensive line, let the enemy crash into that defensive line, let them exhaust themselves attacking me. And once they're in a weakened state, after a couple turns and they don't have much punch left, then I'll counterattack. I'll hit them with my artillery and just start pushing forward. But you want to make sure that you go like 4 or 5 turns of letting them attack you first, and make sure that they've really pretty much exhausted themselves before you counterattack, or you will lose the battle. And then you can pretty much just move your tanks and our infantry forward, and then bring your artillery up behind them and take out their strong points in the cities. Tactics to win: first, control the skies, get tactical bombers. You want to get good tanks, get lots of artillery. And for your infantry, it's good to buy paratroopers. A lot of guys don't like to use paratroopers. I do, because you can strike deep in the enemy's rear at their supply points and take those early in the game, and that greatly weakens them and it speeds up winning the game. And your air power will show you how well defended they are in the rear. So send a plane in, see what they got in their rear. A lot of times they don't have much there, and then if they don't have much, just send in your paratroopers to take a city, but use your tactical bombers as a form of artillery to bombard that city a couple turns. Then send in the infantry. Sometimes you can wipe out everyone in there with your tactical bombers, and then the paratroopers just walk in without a fight. So also, it's good to get heavy equipment platoons for the infantry, and also some engineer platoons, particularly engineers who have bridges, so you can ford bridges, so it's good to have some of them. If you're playing the Russians, this is my advice for the Battle of Finland, the first battle. If you're playing an entire campaign, don't spend any money on that campaign. I mean, I can play it and win it, but it's like, don't buy any more equipment. Just use what you have and build up your battle points of that, and don't really even try and worry about even winning that. Just get your troops some combat experience, and be careful with your tanks. You want to give them some combat experience without actually losing them. Give them a chance to hit soft targets like infantry, but not in fortified positions, and just build up your battle honors. Because for the next battle, when they invade, what you want to do is you want to buy good tanks, you want to buy artillery, you want to buy infantry, and you set up a good position behind the rivers. Let them get to the rivers and then try and ford them. And then you hammer them with the artillery and the tanks and infantry. You buy a lot of tanks too, and you want to buy your AA guns last, but you want to buy enough of them so that they can't hammer you with their air power. So you got like little areas where you're pretty much safe, and you want to just build up your battle points on that one. You don't really want to win that battle. It's not really necessary, but just build up your battle honors on that battle. And then at the Battle of Moscow, that one, you want to build up at least 7 tank units south of Moscow. And these tank units are going to have to swing forward and take the cities in the Germans' rear in order to win this game. Plus you got to hold on. There's like 3 cities you got to take in order to win the Battle of Moscow that are like in the Germans' rear. You got to take all three of those cities to win the battle. Plus, you've got to hold on to Moscow and all your other cities. But Moscow is like right up to the edge of the river, and the other cities are up to the edge of the river. So just hold on to by the way, the cities that you need to take and hold on to, they're lit up. They've got like a bright, shiny glow around them, so you know that you need to hold those or take those to win the game in there. That's for all the battles. They'll have these cities that are like lit up with like a little glow around them, and those are you need to take all of them in order to win in every battle that you're playing in that game. Like with the Russians, buy lots of fighters, control the skies, buy lots of tactical bombers, get good tanks, and remember your tank destroyers are often cheaper than your tanks. And for the Russians, this was unique. Their tank destroyers were actually better than their tanks. I mean, some of them actually were, so I found I could actually win the campaign with just tank destroyers. And they're actually, it's funny because the tank destroyers some of them were, I think it's the ISU 152. That was one I really like to use as a tank destroyer. Get tank destroyers that, when they have the more heavily armored tanks, you want to upgrade to those more heavily armored tanks initially, and get your battle honors up on those tankers, and then go with the IS-2 tank when that comes out. That's the Joseph Stalin II tank. And that was a good tank overall, except it tended to run out of ammo a lot. But your tank destroyers, the ISU, or it was the ZSU 152, I think it was called, or ISU 152, that didn't run out of fuel or ammo very quickly, and it was a tank destroyer, and it was a match for anything the Germans could throw at you. It had a very good firepower and very good armor protection. It's a little slower, but not much. It was, I found I could win the whole war with that. You want to get at least one engineer unit that has a bridge capability for 40 rivers. And it's also good in that game to buy lots of artillery, and you need at least trucks to move them with. I like to buy a few paratroopers when I'm playing the Russians. And if you're short on money, you can buy some partisans, but they aren't very good troops. But if you're short on cash, you can buy them and use them for like cannon fodder for the initial attack to soften up the enemy. The Battle of Sicily, when I play that game, the thing that I like to do is get into the south of Sicily first. I'll take the two southern airfields, and then I'll float some troops in their landing vehicles all the way up to Messina. I'll take that. And you can just land south of Messina. If you do decide to take Messina by sea, you want to land with at least one artillery unit and at least 4 other units of either tanks or infantry for taking Messina, but you need at least one artillery unit for that. I found I could take Messina pretty easily with 5 units. I did it with 3 units, like 2 infantry and 1 artillery, but that's really kind of difficult. That's really pushing it. I found it was much better to do it with at least have 1 tank unit there, and then at least the way I like to do it was 1 artillery, 2 infantry, and 2 tanks. Sometimes I did it with 6 units, where I'd have like 2 artillery and like 2 infantry and 2 tanks. But I found 5 was usually about best: 1 artillery, 2 infantry, and 2 tanks, and to take that one out. For the Normandy invasion, when you're invading there, when you're playing a campaign, you want to get as many. If you're doing well, they'll let you land certain troops like tanks and infantry and artillery in the rear. You want to take advantage of that and get as many troops in the rear positions that they'll allow you. If not, use your paratroopers to land in some of the soft targets in the rear and take those cities before the Germans get a lot of troops up there. And then what you want to do in those cities where you've landed them, you want to buy artillery and you want to buy infantry, and you want to put them in armored personnel carriers that are very quick, so you can move them quickly from one position to another in the rear and take out all their soft rear positions before they have time to fortify them. That's for the Normandy invasions. Also for the Normandy invasions, I would move a lot of the troops to away from their original beaches that they're supposed to land at, and land at softer targets. I'd land them east of where they're supposed to land, because there was almost no one there in those areas, and bring those troops up. But I would also land them at Caen and take those positions right on the beaches, even though they're fortified, and keep landing just right south of Caen, and divert the troops that were landing west of there to land all at Caen. And I found that was a better tactic. Land them there, keep pushing up towards Caen until you've taken Caen. Plus Caen has an airfield there, which is critical for you to win it. And like I said, with this game, you want to keep your veterans back a little bit, particularly your more experienced infantry. You want to upgrade them to paratroopers, and you want to use them to land, if you can, in the rear targets, the softer targets. Also, when you land at Normandy, I would divert a lot of the troops to the Normandy Peninsula and land them there instead of on the beaches they were supposed to have landed at. And that seemed to work very well for me. The tip of Normandy there's a port there that's heavily fortified that you want to take. You want to get at least 3 artillery units down there to support the infantry, and you want to hit them with like heavy equipment infantry or engineer infantry, because these are tough, well-fortified targets to attack. And you want to hit them with, if you got some tanks, hit them with infantry, tanks, and artillery all combined together. But you want to get at least 3 artillery batteries down there, and big ones too, like the 155 millimeters, and just start working on that port in the south of Normandy. The other thing is there's a city with a river on it at the top of the Normandy Peninsula. You want to take that very early and get some infantry in there and get artillery behind them, because they can hold off, because there'll be tanks coming down to take that town later, fairly soon in the game, and you want to take that and you want to hold that, or you're going to get pushed. You might get pushed back in the ocean. It took me 6 times playing this game, the invasion of Normandy, before I could actually win it. So it really was a tough invasion to win. Another game I want to talk to you about is called Pacific General, and it's actually my favorite game of all of them. I really enjoy Panzer General, I really enjoy Allied General, but Pacific General is my favorite of the 3. One of the reasons I like this one so much is because sometimes it's an air war combined with a naval war, like the Battle of Midway, where there's no troop action in there. It's just an air war combined with a naval war. But a lot of times it's an air war combined with a naval war, combined with a naval landing, combined with a land war, and all of those are layered together all at the same time. Make it a very complex game, very interesting, very multi-dimensional. And the thing with that game is you want to get control of the skies, you want to get control of this first, then you want to get control of the oceans next, and then you want to get control of the land third. But you need to start landing your troops on the beaches, start getting them forward. It's good in this game to have artillery backing up your infantry and your tanks, and you don't need fast mobile infantry and artillery in this. Trucks is perfectly fine for moving them around, but you want to get those guys ashore, and you want to start getting them to the fortified positions like the cities and the bunkers. Get your infantry in there, and then get the artillery behind them for support for the attack. A lot of times you don't want to, if you catch them out in the open, you end up with the tanks, the infantry out in the open. But if you don't catch them out in the open, you want to bring up that artillery to support them. or it's going to be really tough going. You might not be able to take those positions. But sometimes you can bring in your air power to hammer positions from the air once you've defeated their air force. Then you can bring in your tactical bombers to help out your ground troops. Another game I want to talk about is called Day of Defeat. Now this is a really fun game. There was an older Day of Defeat that I still like to play, but they got a more modern version that's also very good to play, and I really love both games and perfectly happy playing either of them. The thing is about Day of Defeat, it's a very interesting game because it is small unit tactics, and you're playing it online with other players. And one of the positions I like to play a lot is I like to play either the sniper or the machine gunner. When playing the Germans, I like to grab the MG42. I like the MG34 also. I can fire that on the move fairly well, room to room. Use it like a submachine gun, but it's much easier to hit on the move with an MG34 than an MG42 because that just shakes all over the place. You want to mount that in a good position, but you need some guys with you, in order to get into position, because if you're just running around with the MG42 by yourself, you're not going to get very far. You're going to get shot down. So you want to get behind the infantry as they're advancing, set up that MG42, put down suppressive fire, let them get closer. It's kind of like a boa constrictor where it wraps around you, and every time you inhale, it squeezes tighter. So you keep squeezing tighter and tighter and tighter until you can't breathe anymore. So you want to kind of do that with the machine gunner. You want to get to a position, put down suppressive fire, let the infantry, other foot soldiers get a foothold on the next position, then bring your machine gun up when you're in relative safety, set up again, and just keep moving forward. And that's how you pretty much win the game of Day of Defeat. Another thing I like to play is when I'm playing the Americans, I like to play the guy with the Tommy gun, if I can get it, because that's a really good fun gun to play with. It's good for fighting from room to room, and you could fire on the move as you're running. If I'm playing the British, I like to grab the Sten gun. When I'm playing the British, I don't like to grab the Bren gun. The reason I don't like to grab that is because I found once I set up the Bren on the bipods and start firing, I can wreak havoc with the enemy for about 30 rounds, but as soon as I go to reload, I found I get shot every time, and it's like I never get to reload that weapon. So I prefer the Sten, where I can just fire the submachine gun, pop up, fire a couple rounds, then pop down, reload, and then fire again. Where I'm not vulnerable while I'm reloading. Sten is very good up to about 40 yards. It's dynamite at that range, but beyond that, it's not very effective. The Lee Enfield's a good weapon, but it's very slow rate of fire in close. That's why when I'm traveling, I'll take out the pistol and move with the pistol where I'm going from room to room. And when I'm set up in the position I want to be, then I pull out the Lee Enfield to fire at longer ranges, like firing from a window at the enemy. Once I've gotten to that window. But the basic tactics of this it's small unit tactics. You want to set up your machine guns. You want to get your have them put down suppressive fire while your guys move forward. Then you need your machine gunners to move up to the next position, and just keep doing that over and over again until you've cut off their area and you take their last flag and win the game. Day of Defeat, very good game. Highly recommend it. Counter-Strike, that's another game I really like a lot. They got the older version, the newer version. Both of them are a lot of fun. It's good to communicate with your teammates and move as a team and work as a team and come up with a battle plan. Weapons I like to use on that's the Steyr, the M16, the AK-47. Some of the submachine guns are good, particularly the French one that's got like 50 rounds on it. It's got a very fast rate of fire. It's got 50 rounds, which is a lot to fire with. I like to use the machine gun sometime. I like the 50 caliber sniper rifle. thing I found is I could take out enemy soldiers with one shot from a safe distance away. So they also didn't have a 50 caliber sniper rifle, which a lot of them would. But found I could take out several enemy soldiers very quickly with that 50 caliber. And then I would like use a Desert Eagle handgun as a backup weapon for when I'm in close. I like using the shotguns. A lot of people don't like using those, but they're actually pretty effective. I like using the MAC-10 submachine gun if I'm going to get a submachine gun. The reason I like to use that one is because in close it's very deadly, and I could use it effectively in close, and I could also, in short bursts, take out an enemy from a distance with it. But there's a real art to using the MAC-10, and most people never figure out how to use it properly. So they think it's worthless, but it's actually a pretty good weapon if you know how to use it. It's good when you're playing that game to make sure you keep buying ammo for your weapons, because you keep playing more rounds. And one time I bought the Desert Eagle and I didn't buy any ammo for it, and I killed an enemy soldier, and I was out of ammo for my assault rifle and my Desert Eagle both, because I hadn't bought any more. There's one enemy left, and I tried to get away from him before the round. He let the clock run out on the round, but he got me with his submachine gun. So it's good to buy. Make sure you buy ammo. Also in that game, it's good to buy a diffuser kit. They're cheap, and they come in very handy. When you're doing a hostage rescue mission, as a general rule, if they're not, it's good to go for the hostages fairly early in the game. If you can get to them and get them back, you win the game that way. A lot of times people seem to forget that, and they don't go for the hostages. And particularly if they're weakly guarded, you definitely want to go and grab those hostages as soon as possible. One of the games that they have is Protect the VIP. And in that game, you got to get the VIP from this oil platform at the bottom to the helicopter. And when you play that game, it's good never to take the same route twice, because you do different rounds. And if you're playing on the side that's getting the VIP out, it's good to stick with the VIP. A lot of guys, they aren't sticking with the VIP when they're running around. They're just running around any direction. You know, you want to stay with him. Wherever he goes, you go with him. And that's the key to that game if you're playing the Rescue the VIP side. If you're playing the other side, it's good to get some guys out towards where the VIP is at. You know, sometimes you can take them by surprise early in the game, but a lot of times what I like to do is camp and wait by the helicopter. You know he's got to come that way, some direction, and a lot of times I would just get the VIP as he's running towards the helicopter, even just a few short steps before he's supposed to get to the helicopter and win. And that's a tactic I like to use, and I've been very successful at that. Call of Duty, it's an older game. It's you don't have as much control. Okay, another game I like to talk about is Call of Duty. Call of Duty, it's an older game. You don't have as much control in it as you do like a game like Brothers in Arms, but it's still pretty fun. You don't have control over your other teammates, but they do at least stick together with you when you're playing. In Battlefield 1942, a game I liked, but the problem I had with it was you didn't have control of your other teammates. So, you know, it was, I'd end up going off by myself, fighting all by myself, without having anyone on my own team go with me. And that was disappointing, but it's still overall a fun game. Some of the early games,